What does it really take to grow a successful engineering firm? Is it the numbers, the market conditions, or something deeper, like the people behind the business? Today, I'm sitting down with Justin Ramirez, RTM's Director of Strategic Growth. He's been on both sides of the table, guiding firms through mergers and acquisitions and helping owners make one of the biggest decisions of their careers. We'll unpack what's shifting in 2025, how firms can navigate the current uncertainty, and why RTM takes a completely different approach to growth, one that's built on relationships, not just transactions. And trust me, you'll want to hear Justin's personal story, how he went from growing up in a construction family to law school to consulting and ultimately landing at RTM, where he's shaping the future of engineering partnerships. If you're a leading firm or just curious about how strategic growth really happens, this episode is for you. Let's get started. I'm Katherine Jelinek, your host for Beyond Engineering, a podcast from RTM Engineering Consultants, where a genuine devotion to people and their passions empowers us to grow together, lead with integrity, and make a meaningful impact. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm very excited for this episode with Justin Ramirez, Director of Strategic Growth at RTM Engineering Consultants. So today, Justin, we are going to dive into talking about the industry as a whole, 2025, your observations so far. We'll dig into RTM's approach to mergers and inorganic growth. And then lastly, we'll talk about a few important tips for firms that are considering merges, things that you've observed and questions to be asking, red flags to be looking for as that process begins for independent firms. So let's dive right in. Justin, I know that you're kind of like, I don't want to talk about 2025. The recording date today is the 28th of January. And I know this will be aired in February. But, okay, first of all, Justin, what's your unique perch? For those who might not know you, what's your role and a little bit of your background so we know where your observations are coming from? What kind of
First
situation?
off, first off, I appreciate the opportunity, Catherine. I've been looking forward to this for some time now, in both anxiety and excitement. Um, it- you know, honestly, I'll keep the story short, and anyone out there listening can feel free to connect with me to hear the full version of it. But I grew up as the son of a general contractor, practically born and raised in this industry, voluntold, if you will, in terms of working, starting to work at the age of 8, which isn't illegal if it's family ran business. So I got an unfortunate situation there on that one, but went off to college, did the thing with undergrad in finance and accounting, moved on a little bit, did a little bit of banking, audit, risk management, compliance type work for a regional bank over here in Arkansas, and then made the wise decision, I suppose, of going in and getting a JD, going to law school, passing the bar exam, and the real crux of my vantage point here that's really unique is all of that combined with the experience that I gained at Swy Group, and not only the experience but the relationships that I established there as well. It was kind of full circle, right? General contractor in the industry, circling all the way back to consulting with AEC firm owners on business operations, helping them with strategic growth initiatives, M&A, et cetera, doing all the gambit of it. But really being able to give back to an industry that gave so much to me and my family as I was growing up. Um, then, after all that said and done, I went effectively from free labor as White Group to running their largest revenue generating department within a span of 6 years. Had the pleasure of working with Tony and RTM on the buy side mandate for M&A initiatives before I had resigned from Zweig Group because of my family. It was I hit a wall effectively and had some self realizations that I had just been doing way too much, and that if I wanted to be the type of person I've always strived to be and be the parent that I believe my son deserves and the husband that I know my wife deserves. I needed to ensure I wasn't going to stroke out by the age of 40. I needed to change some things up. So I made that life changing decision to exit the management consulting realm, and move on with life with no backup plan, and found myself here at RTM helping out with the continued growth efforts through inorganic methods. It's been fun. It has been invigorating. I get to wake up every single day and do what I love, which is talking with people, hearing their journey, understanding their passions, figuring out what inspired them to go out on their own and start their own venture and hang their own shingle and run their own operations and just take that leap. Um, it is something that really drives me. And fortunately, with RTM, one of their main approaches to strategic hires as well as partners that we've merged with is really getting to know the individuals and understanding what their passions are, and then putting them in that seat and giving them the resources they need to be successful in that seat on behalf of RTM, on behalf of the clients of RTM, and on behalf of the built environment. Um, it's one of the main factors that have led to the success that is now RTM. So that's the vantage point. That's the perch that I sit on. A lot of people tell me I have a unique perspective. I see myself as just normal Justin doing normal Justin things like anybody else in this world, and trying to make as much of a positive impact as I possibly can on the world, my community, and the built environment.
Yes. And what I already hear is unique is you get to listen to so many different people's stories from within the industry.
Yes,
And so you do have an opportunity through your own Justin lens to have observations about more of it as a whole than most of us.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's you're not wrong. You're right. I have to be humble in that. It's there's no obligation for these individuals, these successful individuals, to really open up to me, to be honest with me, without an NDA, right? Like that, and everything in their bones and everything they've lived through in their life is probably telling them not to. But I've come to learn one critical thing that's gotten me to where I am today, as fast as I've gotten to where I am today, and that's people like to work with people that they like. And as long as you're a genuine person and you have no malintent and you are genuinely curious and interested in hearing these things, not for the to take back to the boardroom for drawing up anything or scheming or anything, but to help them, to benefit them, to potentially hear something that they're going through right now internally in their operations that I may have consulted on in the past, and say, hey, you know, here's what I suggested when I was in this position, or I know someone else that went through this, and here's how they handled this situation, which is really brings me so much joy. It really does. It wakes me up every morning.
That's so wonderful. You're a natural connector and getting to be a part of like work that actually is a part of connecting the dots and the needs and the
Yes.
natural fit. That's so cool. I can see how that lights you up. Okay, so then through your unique lens, Justin, what are you seeing in 2025? How is 2025 different so far? And I know the minute you say anything, it's going to be different tomorrow. But today, what do you see?
It's just there's just so much uncertainty right now. There is. If you'd asked me the same question 12 months ago, I could give you an answer on disciplines, markets, regions, everything. Right now, a lot of things that people thought were solidified and certain are no longer certain. We're seeing massive shifts. And I just, with all that uncertainty, I don't want to speak in too many specifics, but I do want to point out a few things that are kind of top of mind for me right now, which is uh, one, we may be seeing some disturbance in the alternative energy. That may be something that's popping up. There's massive clawbacks on that, and we're now drill baby drill, right? That's what we're going to be doing. So what does that also produce? Potentially an increase in oil and gas industry demand, and what the services on the engineering side for that are.
And is this because of the inauguration, the new presidency, and the executive orders coming out just this
Yeah.
past week? Yeah.
And
Okay.
everyone's still trying to figure it out. I mean, we're trying to figure out what's gonna hold up, what's not gonna hold up, what's gonna be our reality, and what's not gonna be our reality. But those two sectors historically overlooked have well, not alternative energy, but the oil and gas. And there's not a lot of firms out there that really want to dabble in that industry from the engineering side perspective. But those that do are doing well and will continue to do well. should everything go through the way that it's proposed. The alternative energy, a lot of firms have invested a lot of capital and time and resources into that, whether it's human or financial capital, but they may be clawing back on it a little bit more. Data centers, right? Data centers, people have been going nuts over that. It's been everything from the data center itself to energy transmission to it, development of substations, all these things people trying to get on board with and get in play. But the reality of it is now DeepSeek, what did they just wiped 500 and something billion off the market cap just the other day? Like this is, thank you for pointing out what day it is, because this is airing in a month or so, right? But people are still going to be feeling that if they were heavily weighted on the tech sectors. But that there may be just some disturbance in that. Maybe we're starting to realize we're getting to a point to where we don't need as much as we thought we needed in order to produce what we thought we needed to produce. Getting back to who we are, the human element, right? I mean, trying to do as much as we possibly can with as minimal effort has always been a little bit of a advantage and disadvantage, right? Potentially could lead to the inability to keep current staff staffed, which could open up some more experienced talent into the market, the talent pool for other firms to be able to go out and acquire or bring on board with them, something historically this industry has struggled with drastically. Year over year, fewer and fewer engineering grads are popping out of college. Every
Fewer.
year, fewer. And year over year, more and more engineering firms, boomers, if you will, in this context, are retiring. And all these things are just kind of colliding and combining at this I'll call it a weird time, but at this time right now, that's just like a lot of the strategies that a lot of firms have leaned on and moved forward with, and have made them successful, are starting to kind of be tossed up a little bit. Like it's kind of all these things changing up. The firms are having to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, whoa, hold up. This is not the environment we were operating in. These are not the times we were operating in. We have to adapt. We have to be flexible. We have to be sure that we're not overly diversified or have too much client concentration risk, if you will, in certain sectors, markets, et cetera. Like that's something that's always been back of mind, but right now it's never been more critical to be sure to look at some of your projects, your portfolio, your revenue portfolio, period, with your clients, and take the private equity approach. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. Be diversified. Make sure you're in the right place at the right time. And if you're able to get ahead into a space that's coming up next, go for it. Do it right now, because there's never been a better time to merge or buy.
Okay, well, we'll get into that because I've got questions now that you said that. But how about the question I asked? Let me know if you answered it, and I just didn't totally catch it. Is there really a difference between the firms that are now not being supported by the federal regulations and that are women-owned, minority-owned, and all of the different designations?
Personally, one, I'm not an engineer. I've never put together a set of plans. I've reviewed blueprints. I've built buildings. That's perfectly fine under general contractor sense. But I think it goes back to the fact that everyone in this industry is good people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everyone provides a quality of service that is on par with what their clients are asking them to do. And I strongly believe, and this is a very, very just middle of the road answer. I already know anyone can call me out on that. I think there may be shifts. I think if we're shifting from this check the box system to effectively a merit based system, I think there may be some firms out there that may want to go with a firm that maybe perhaps the quality is the same, but perhaps their ability to turn the work around faster is different. Maybe they can get the project done quicker and it still be the same quality of work. Now that could be the game changer, and as to why they're not still working with those individuals, because those designated firms, qualified firms, typically, not in all instances, but typically tend to be on the smaller side. And so they may work a little bit slower, right? Just from a capacity perspective, they can only handle so much. Yeah, so and they've kind of had some restrictions on size standards. They can only generate and don't hold me to this, but I want to say the last update to it was a few years ago, and it raised the size standard to like 22.5 million or something in revenue. So some of those firms were kind of capped out on how much they could grow. how much they could generate,
Hey, in order
right?
to still retain the designation. How interesting. So maybe even like to just try and be optimistic and positive. Like that's an opportunity to not have that as a ceiling. And I mean, we can move into our second section because I feel like there's an easy transition here with opportunities that have always been there. You, in our first conversation that wasn't recorded for a podcast, you quoted something about how the large majority of firms in this space are so small, are relatively small. Are what was it? Like under 20 people, under 15?
I want to say there's around 147,000 engineering firms, and I want to say the annual engineering U.S. domestic revenue comes out around 280 billion, I think. And if we look at that on an average number, right, compared to the number of firms, it's like 2 million in revenue per firm. But the reality of it is, I think only 20% of firms have more than 20% of those engineering firms have more than 20 employees. I think like the number is like 70 or 80% of them have 14 employees or less. And so, and gosh, I got to stop myself there because I hate calling people employees, team members. It's team members. And there is opportunity, a lot of opportunity, but ours is a little bit different for what we look at. It's, we're not the plug and play kind of firm that will take anybody who is interested in exiting, getting out of the business. We're not an exit strategy. A lot of firms in the industry look at merging or selling as a means of exit. They didn't take the proper steps to solidify their legacy internally or transition ownership to their key team members or their second tier, and they didn't take the steps to train their second tier, and so they don't have one. Or the second tier is there and they're doing wonderful and they run the firm on their own practically, but the reality of it is they can't afford to buy out the owner, and the owner doesn't want to self finance and put him or herself in a situation to where they're having to self finance something that they have no control over anymore because they don't work in the business anymore. It's all up to those individuals. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of opportunity coming about for buyers in this industry, and there's a lot more opportunity for privately held buyers, non-private equity, non-capital backed buyers in the industry that grew from four team members up to 550.
And when you're saying that in my lay terms, I'm hearing it's groups kind of similar to RTM that are a part of the industry versus those that are private equity. Is that the right, and more
Those that
financial?
don't come from the industry,
Yeah.
those that didn't cut their teeth in the industry. That's where it's at. There's more opportunity there, and it's not for a lot of the reasons people think.
Okay.
It I've said this for the past few years actually. The greatest benefit that a non capital backed private equity firm, and when I'm talking that, I'm saying the private equity firms that stand alone on their own, that are coming into the industry that don't have a platform, and including those that have come into the industry that do have a platform, and including those strategic serial buyers that are making acquisition, or merger, consistently, that have partnered with those private equity or capital backers. The greatest benefit that we, like a company like RTM, as a privately held company, still family majority owned, have is time. We have time. We are in no rush. We will get where we want to be when we get there. We will do everything we can to get there by the time we want to get there, but we're not going to be upset if we don't hit the target. As long as we're continuing to grow and we're better than we were the year before, we're happy.
So why are they in a rush? I wouldn't know that if I'm not you
They,
or
they've
within the industry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a fair question. And I think everyone in the back of their mind understands this whenever they're having the conversations. They've got certain goals they got to hit. They've
Mm.
got to provide returns. They've got to pay off the interest on debt. They've made promises,
Hmm.
and they got the money to make these moves and to make these investments and to buy these companies on promises.
Mm.
and they're going to be held to those promises, and they have to make them work, and they have to move as fast as they have to move in order to meet that. They don't have the luxury of saying, this year isn't the year, we're not going to buy this year. We're.
And so I'm seeing the underscore of the unique advantage of firms like RTM, privately held. You can go slower, but I'm translating that into you get to make the decisions you want to make and stay focused on the people and the fit and really having the high standard you have for merges.
Salute. Yeah. Absolute, just absolutely. That you hit it on the head. Yeah, that's exactly right. We do not have any hesitation. When I say we, I'm not talking about just RTM. I'm talking about privately held entities that are doing M&A in the AEC industry. Um, we get to curate this unique approach to a process that has historically been purely transactional.
Mm.
We are able to write our own book. We are able, we're doing that every single day we wake up anyway, but we get to do it on a much more massive scale now because any decision we make, we know it's a fully informed decision. We know we have the time. We know that hey, it's right now, we don't have time today to have this conversation because fires are going on over here on our services. That's okay. That's fine. We're going to postpone it. We'll talk. We'll catch up when we catch up. Or if it's on the other side where they're having something going on internally. At the end of the day, everyone in this industry knows work comes first in terms of when looking at these types of opportunities. It's not that these opportunities come first. In operations, people come first. But when you're looking at M&A, work always comes first. And even if you're engaged in a discussion, and it's a serious discussion about merging, joining forces, or being acquired, you still have to operate every day as though that's not even there. That you cannot let that disrupt your operations. You cannot let that disrupt your day to day. You still have to be on top of your game, and you have to be running your firm the way that you see fit and the way that you know it needs to be ran in order to be successful. Because the only reason you're having a conversation like you're having about a merger or acquisition is because you've built something that someone else is interested in. And so the moment you lose sight of that and you let that slip, no one's going to be interested anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got to make that your priority because that deal could fall through any day. Could fall through in the nth hour, the nth minute, nth second, right before you're supposed to close. And you just spent 5 6 months, and 3 months of due diligence or 4 months of due diligence, with a second job that you may have disregarded a lot of things that you used to have to focus on every single day, and some things fall through the cracks. So just keep living your life, keep doing your thing, but also, be open to the discussions and have the conversations. But work comes first until the paper's signed.
Do you have any tips or advice from observing this so many times for the individual firm who's maybe beginning this? And honestly, it's like you get to double your work when you decide you want to go out and potentially merge or be acquired or whatever, because now you have two jobs. Like you just said, you still have to do the work and keep your company as valuable as it was before you had this idea, if not more, increase the value.
Ideally,
Yes,
you can do
exactly. Make
that.
it look even better because you're selling the house. So you got to start putting all the things in it.
Exactly. Yes.
Redo the tile.
Yeah.
Um, but and then now you have the added job on top of it of having these conversations. How do you have two jobs when this time comes? Besides just working harder and longer.
The reality of it is, right, like these individuals that are going through the process, it's not the team that's going through it. It's the founders, it's the owner, it's the C-suite if the firm's large enough, right? But it's the leaders of the company that are engaging in the discussions, and no one else in the company knows about it until it's solidified and it's announced internally, right? So they're all doing what they're doing. Your team members are still doing what they've been doing. Nothing's changed. You have to continue to provide that support. You have to continue to be that leg, that pillar for them. You still have to maintain your confidence. You still have to mentor, guide, train, all those things. Now, it differs, right? It differs drastically. You have some firms on the larger side that have already practically handed off some of those things. They're no longer responsible for it, and they're able to fully engage in the conversation, fully vet out the opportunities. And you've got the flip side of the coin on the other side of the spectrum where you've got a 20-man shop or a 14-man shop, which is 80% of the engineering industry firms, right? So that those individuals, they're in the midst of it. They are wearing 15, 16 different hats on the smaller side of the spectrum. So that guidance is really, really, truly applicable to the 80% out there. Uh, they have to keep moving forward. They have to keep doing what they're doing. The guidance there, I guess, is it's just like whenever you started the company. You're it's okay. You're gonna get through it. It's just a phase. It's just like parenthood. It's
Yes,
just a
it's a new
phase.
baby. I was just thinking
Yeah.
that. I'm like, you just had a new baby.
It is. And I'm learning now phases, they come and they go and everything ebb and flows, right? Like it's okay. And you just keep doing what you're doing because what you've done, it's a discipline in effect, right? Like you're self-disciplined. If you've started your own firm and you're in a situation where others are looking to talk with you and still looking to talk to you after they've had the initial conversation, then you've got something really unique and you've created something special. And it's going to take time and it's going to suck a lot of time from you, but you've done it before. It's not anything dissimilar to what you've already gone through before in the past, and you will get through it. But it's gonna be a distraction for a little while.
Mm-hmm. And this is part of the appeal, right? Of these awesome, unique boutique firms that have like 14 people. Part of the appeal is I know from getting to hear so much of the RTM story that upon being a part of the team, it's that huge exhale and the opportunity for especially the owner, founders, principals to get to do the things they really love the most rather than have to carry the infant.
Yeah, yeah. We used to equate it to fighting a fire with one arm behind your back and a baby
Yeah.
strapped to your chest, right? Like
Yes.
that's a lot. It's a lot. But you at some point all fires die, right? And it goes back to normal. So you just have to fight it long enough and remain safe. Keep on your protective gear, keep on your discipline, keep on your integrity, keep on your mental fortitude and your focus, and keep focusing on what's gotten you to where you are today. Never lose sight of what you've gone through and continue to show up. And sometimes, majority of the times, that's really all you got to do. You just got to show up. Show up, be present where it counts. Know the difference between where it counts and where it doesn't count. That's a huge game changer. I did not understand that until I became a father. That part, like I thought I had to be present for everything. That's not the case. You've got to be surrounded by people, people that you trust, people that are just as driven as you, people that want the same that see the same vision, people that want the same result for everyone. It's if you're surrounded by that right now. I'm thinking the whole village takes a village to raise a kid analogy, right? Like it's just coming.
It takes a village to raise a company in some ways too.
It does. No, it does. Like you have to have the nieces and the nephews and the cousins, and you got to have the brothers and the sisters and the grandparents and the parents. Like you've got to have all that. Now, the only difference there that I really don't want to like, and for a second I forgot we're even being recorded. Uh, the the only I know it just happens to me. I have ADD, so the um, the only difference there that I never really want to attribute the analogy of like we're a family inside of a company is because in reality we're a team. We want the best people. We want we want those that are driven. We want those that are top of their game. But ultimately, we want people that are good. We want good, humble people on our team. We don't want the all-star that knows everything, that's unteachable, that's not willing to share information, that's not willing to be part of a team because they can carry the team on their own in their mind. We want people that want to be part of the team. So in a sense, when from the team analogy, when we're recruiting, um, it's really hard to find those people. But the beauty is we know for a fact because we're surrounded by them on a day-to-day basis internally at RTM. They exist and they're out there and there's a lot of them. It's just hard to find them.
Well, you've done a good job at finding them.
So far, and we're
Not
going
a
to
very
continue down
small
that path.
team.
No, it's not. No, we're not at all. But it is nice once you put that team together and you've gone through all the proper gut checks and you've gone through all the proper motions and processes and everything that a lot has been that have mostly been driven and designed out of experience and lessons learned. We figured out what we've seen, what we've all experienced, what we've learned from prior mistakes, and we've combined all that cumulative knowledge together here at RTM to make sure that every step we take going forward, we're continuing to go in the right direction and maintaining what we've built so far, which is the culture. That's the number one important thing for our team members. At the end of the day, we're nothing without our team, and that's applicable to any engineering firm, any architecture firm, any construction firm. That our primary assets are between the ears of our team members, and they walk out the door every single night. They don't have to come back. So we've got to keep them at top of mind in every single decision that's ever made.
Okay, you said so many important things there. So I'm going to dial it back just a little bit to maybe one of my favorite wisdom bites of the podcast, which is relatable to beyond to the industry specifics here, where your realization after becoming a parent is that you can't do everything. You can't be the one who's going to take care of all of it. And I know that this is a realization a lot of us have when you're in positions of great responsibility. So this is something like a business owner also has that may or may not be a parent, but the parents of us definitely also know, like, you just can't solve it all. Like, yes, we want to. A lot of us have that programming and patterning. And then the wisdom that you just shared also of like, all we really ever have is right now. And usually we all have a pretty clear idea as to what needs to be done and focused on right now. We only really ever have the attention we can offer in this moment. So those are both like, okay, yes, applicable to everybody, everywhere, and extremely applicable to the situations you're describing around merges and this industry. But let's dive into that. It's tangible from the conversation we're having, but talk to us about RTM's specific approach to inorganic growth. Obviously, it's very human centered. The team is, and who is being brought in is of utmost importance. And you take the time to really ensure that that's a natural, there's chemistry there, there's alignment, there's fit, especially given that you are dealing with a lot of companies that are, the 14-person, 12-person crew. Like, how do you do it in a way that's more approachable for them? I'm guessing that there's like flexibility. So talk to me about the approach overall, and then how you do it in a way that's, bite-sized chunks for the firms that, are in that moment of intensity.
So I'm writing down overall, and then I'm writing down bite-sized chunks so I don't forget
I
because I'm
can
going to be
remember too.
overlapping them back and forth. That's just my nature. So I'll finish off with overall and then bite-size here. So overall, RTM, its partners, the founders, uh, founder Tony's father, understood something very simple, and it came with a lot of, I'm sure it came with a lot of hard lessons learned in order to get to that point of realization. But they realized something very simple. If you have the right person in the right seat with the right resources and they're doing something that they're passionate about, success will follow, period. Now, finding the good people. How do we do that? Because that's our number one thing. That's our number one goal. We can find good people. And when I say people, I mean partners. We want partners. We're not looking for those individuals that are, the end of the runway, not much gas left in the tank. The only option is for them to be able to retire is to sell or merge, and they want to be out in 6 months to a year to 2 years. Like they've done something great, but in many cases, their operations only continue to be as successful as they were if that person or that individual continues to remain there. So we want partners who have already taken some of those steps to secure their legacy. Like, best case scenario for me, for RTM, best case scenario, we start a conversation with someone who has already taken a look inside. They're no longer living or operating a lifestyle firm where they're draining the bank account every single year, but they have a growth mindset. So they've kept earnings and everything on the books, and they deploy that every year for investments, or they're giving good bonuses, or they're giving good raises, or they're hiring top talent, or they're investing in technology, or investing in anything, whatever it is, but they've taken steps, whether failed or not, that's fine. But they've taken those steps before. They've tried. They've tried to grow their company, scale their company. They want that. They just haven't been able to figure out, why can't I do this? What do I need to do? And they talk to our TM. That's the best case scenario. We want those individuals that are driven. We want those individuals that have that entrepreneurial spirit. We want those individuals that want more for their team. That's the key. Not for themselves, but for their team. They want to provide more opportunities for their team, to be able to work on different types of projects, maybe more complicated industrial type projects that maybe their current service offerings or their resume doesn't allow them to go after and win, or maybe they just don't have the capacity to take on. I mean, there's so many different things that come into play. And this is one of those topics that we could probably go on for about an hour and a half on, maybe even more. But how do we find them? I think that was your overarching question. And how do we do all that in the midst of knowing these individuals also have a
Hmm.
business to run?
Right. How do you do that in a way that is approachable for them and doesn't just like, whoa, blow up my life and business, you know?
It's we take it back to the simplest form of men and women, of human nature. It's conversation. It's what everyone loves to do. It's conversation. We be intentional about what we want to talk about, but our intentionality focuses on understanding who they are, what drives them, how they operate, what their interests are, what they're not interested in, what their passions are, what they absolutely hate with the passion, what they're currently doing they don't want to do any more of, and what they are not doing right now that they want to do more of, etc. Things like that. Yeah. So the reality of it is everyone started a business for a reason. Maybe a good reason, may have been a bad experience. Yeah, there's not really ever a bad reason to start a business unless you're looking to commit crimes and stuff, but that's not typically the case, right? They either went through some experience at another job when they were first starting out, or something that they just saw everything how that company was being ran, and this is me talking specifically engineering. You see it in construction, really, but more specifically AE. That firm may have merged with somebody or been acquired by somebody, and they just didn't handle communications right or something. But point being is, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of firms in this industry that were started by individuals who had bad experiences with their prior employer. But just from, it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. And it inspired them to go out and hang their own shingle and run a business that was completely opposite of what they had experienced. Just driven them to be better, drove them to treat their team members better, or treat their clients better, or provide higher quality services, or not just treat their client like a number, not treat their team members like a number, things like that. And it's, if you can figure out what that reason was, could also be that they just wanted more flexibility in their schedule, or they were not enjoying the types of things that they were working on and they wanted to work on this specific thing. A true engineer's engineer, if you will, doesn't care about business side of things. They just really just want to do engineering, and this is the way that they saw their ability to do that and provide them flexibility and a control over what they're able to work on, what types of projects they take on, and what kind of clients they work with. There's so many reasons, and if you can find out what those are, usually what I've seen is that around, I hate to even put a number on it, but I'd say around 90%. 90% of the individuals that did start their firm out of passion, out of a reason, they no longer find that reason to be their main thing today.
Hmm. Because we all change, we evolve. You achieve the reason you created that company, you lived it for 15 years plus, and then there's a new horizon or something. Life changes.
Yeah, I mean, we change. We change. Our passions change. Our interests change. Life happens, or we have experiences that make us reflect. I mean, just like what I shared in the beginning of this call, something that happened in my life personally, two things that I'm just like, oh, I need to change things up a little bit. I want to be a better father. I want to be a great father I wasn't a father at that time, so I couldn't have been a better father. But I wanted to be a great father, and I wanted to be an even better husband. And those are things that changed, and those changed my outlook on life, and those changed the way I approach people, and that changed the way that I view the type of work that I do and the type of impact that I have on an industry that's provided so much to me. I mean, it's full circle. And then Tony, right? Like Tony finds my passion, which is what I shared earlier, connecting with people, hearing their journeys, understanding what they value in life and what they value in business and what they value just period. Um, and trying to figure out in an effort of, or trying to figure out in a vacuum effectively in a short amount of time, because we're trying to be respectful of their time and their business. Um, what do we have here? You know, are we aligned? What kind of solution can we come up with together? What are the results of us really putting all of our efforts, pooling all of our efforts in a pool together, um, and go out there and see what we can accomplish? Will it be great? Will it be or are we're gonna be like, oh man, we wish that one never happened. Like that one's been rare. We've there's not been, I don't think we've had a single one where we've been like, oh, we wish that one didn't happen, because of the process that we had the time, going back to the private buyers topic. We had the time to curate a process that really fleshes out all the red flags, if there are any.
And what is that process, high level, like the main steps?
We get on a phone call. We're not one. We're the last thing, and it goes back what we said. We've digressed away from the transactional approach. So when we have that first conversation, it's not about your performance. It's not about metrics. Are you tracking utilization? It's not about all those things. It's about you. Who are you? Very humbly speaking, who are you? What are you doing right now that is making you happy? What are you facing right now that's making you wish you could just stay in bed all day long and you didn't have to show up or answer an email or a call? What are your struggles? What is there anything there that we can help you with? Because the reality of it is we gain a lot from joining forces and merging with our partners. We gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of expertise, a lot of lessons learned that they've gone through. Um, we want to make sure that we are able to give just as much, if not more, to them than what we are getting. It's the complete opposite, in effect, of how you look at it from a transactional perspective. And so, high level steps that anyone out there in the industry that has had a conversation with a potential partner, a buyer, someone who's looking to merge with you or buy you, our first step is an introductory call. We talk about ourselves, we get to know each other. Our next step is figuring out a little bit from a geographical, market, services, discipline perspective, just kind of fit in with us? Are you going to be happy working with us, working on some of the same types of projects, but also do we offer more diversity than what you currently have to offer your team members to make them happy? We introduce you to one of our many other partners that have merged with us, for you to have a candid conversation with them. And there is no holds bar. There's no training, there's no script, there's no nothing, to talk with them and to ask them about their experiences, to figure out their why. Why did they think that this was the right thing to do? Why did they do this? Has it turned out to be everything that they were told? And we're happy to introduce you to as many as you want, because we have plenty of them on board with us. And next steps are, you're either coming to see us or we're going to see you. We want to break bread with you. We want to get to know you outside of that office that we had our initial discussion in over a video call or on a phone call. We want to know who Jim is, right? Like, let's talk. Let's have fun together. Can we sit at the same table? Because the reality is once, if we do merge, we're going to be sitting at the same table for a very long time together.
And you learn so much from the way a meal with a person, their behaviors, excuse me, how they treat the waiter, everything. Like there's so many little things you can pick up about a person from a meal.
Yep. There's too many. There's too many. It gets a little overbearing sometimes, but there's too many. And at the crux of it, though, it all goes back to what we're trying to do, and that's finding good, driven, growth minded, entrepreneurial people. And you can usually figure that out. There's a lot of instances where a lot of people, some no, I wouldn't say a lot of instances and a lot of people, but there are instances where some people are able to put on that face during the initial call, right, and they make it through a couple of different conversations following that. But ultimately, after a certain amount of conversations, like, you start to really genuinely understand who this person is, and especially being someone like myself who is sitting in on all of these calls, who's there with them and observing and understanding. And I'm gut checking constantly and constantly validating things that have been priorly said to ensure that this isn't just a story. This is genuine. This is real. This is who they are. This is the person. This isn't someone who's telling someone what they want to hear. This is them being themselves. Um, that's a big factor. It's a big factor that a lot of firms don't put enough emphasis on. A lot of firms that are looking to do M&A in this industry, and they try to run it a lot of like a process, and they have a playbook and they have a script and they stick to it and they don't deviate from it. And you got to be flexible. You got to understand. And when the time component of us, the massive benefit, the time component, that conversation can be a year long. It could be a week long. It could be a month long. It could be 2 years long. I think the longest running conversation we have right now is going on close to 2.5 years.
Mm.
Predates me being here and predates me working with RTM on the buy side from Zweig Group. So it's the investment of time, and it's important though. It's important to us. There's several firms out there that we've established relationships with by initially talking about merging and joining forces with, and it just wasn't the right time for them. The value expectation they perhaps had in mind wasn't something that we could really prove out with prior performance, and unfortunately, we couldn't make that kind of move just yet. But we talk with them on a monthly basis. We see where they're at. We give them guidance. We share our lessons learned. We share our experiences. We let them know how we're doing things over here, what we would suggest for them to change up and start doing in their firm to get to that point of performance to where we can provide that point of value that they're wanting for them.
Wow. So you're kind of coaching them then.
I mean, that's the consulting part in
That's
or in
wonderful.
RTM engineering consultants, right? So right, like it's kind of a little bit of a mix there. We're engineers and consultants over here.
I want to flip it really quick because we're coming close to time and I want to give
Yes.
us time for our conclusion and closing. But if we want to flip the script a little bit, what questions do they need to be asking that they might not be thinking of? What do they need to be watching for as red flags on the reverse side? Give them a few tips and tricks and hints.
I think it's situationally dependent. I'll give general tips for the type of firm owners out there that are wanting to ensure their team members are left in good hands and their clients are left in good hands, and that everything that they've worked so hard to build and sacrifice so much for is taken care of. Because in all reality, those are not a dime a dozen, but those are very, very, very good people. And so I'll give the tips and tricks to those individuals. Just because a someone approaches you out of nowhere and wants to have a conversation with you about M&A, you control timing. It's not someone else's decision on when it happens. It's your decision. You control the timing. You control the tempo. You don't have to follow their process just because they've done it 15, 20 times. You can say, hey, I would like to have a couple more conversations. And hey, I'd like to talk with some of your partners that have merged with you historically. And I'd like to speak with them one on one, or, happy for you to be there. But you have every right to vet that company out just as much as they're vetting you out. The other aspect, and this is just generally applicable for those owners and the owners of firms that have yet to decide how they're going to retire from the company. Internal transition, external sale, however they're going to do it. Train your second tier. If you don't have a second tier to train, get a second tier. Identify those key people and get them everything they need in terms of resources, support, guidance, mentorship, exposure, experience. I mean, you throw all of it out there. Find out what they want to be doing for your company. Find out what they're really passionate about in your organization. You might have some individuals, even though they're engineers or architects, that are personally, they love managing their personal finances. They love managing the finance aspects of their life. I've met dozens of them. And maybe that's a good person that might like managing the finances of the company, right? That's someone perfect to try to groom up to handle bookkeeping, be a controller perhaps, do reporting for you, take off some of those things that you don't want to do.
Understand what they're passionate about, what they enjoy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
understand what they enjoy. Some of them are just going to be like, I can't stand technical design, but I love BD.
Mhm.
I love going to lunches. I love playing golf. I love doing this. I want to go meet them. Like, okay, you focus on that. Then let's dedicate a certain percentage of that your capacity to that, and the rest of it keep it technical. Or maybe we take technical off your plate. And you focus purely on BD, and you're managing in BD doer sellers. Like, you do that. Find the positions, and a lot of individuals will take that comment to say, find that one person. Why just one? Why just two? Why just three? Why just four? I mean, build you an army, build you a support system that if something happens to you, or you don't show up for a month, everything's fine. It's
Right, back to the
okay.
village. Build
Yeah,
your
back
own,
to the village. Build your village.
and then build your way into a bigger one.
Yes, and the reason I say it, the reason I give that advice is because it's often the most overlooked and easiest low hanging fruit.
Mhm.
They're there, they're right there. You're surrounded by them every single day.
Yes, the
Or
realization that you don't have to do this alone seems like a requirement before they get to go even realize they can take the leap.
yes,
Building that
and
into their real life already.
1,000%, and the aspect of it though, and I don't mean to cut you off.
Good.
I'll finish this one out.
Mhm.
The point of it in doing that, it enables you flexibility. You can potentially get a higher value if you sell externally, and you may not have to stay on as long during the transition and integration period. You can also have a means of transitioning ownership internally with a larger pool of people who can collectively actually afford to buy you out over a reasonable time period instead of a 10, 15-year note payable or promissory note. And you're still going to increase the value you're exiting at, even if you do an internal sale, because you're able to step back while these individuals are taking care of everything else. You're able to step back and focus on the bigger picture and figure out where you need to drive this firm for growth and scalability. So
Oh,
it's a
good.
benefit overall.
The theme of don't do it alone. Like, you don't act like you're the only one who can carry this. And everything benefits those around you that could be around you in the future, potential opportunities. There's more of them, more options. Okay, so you know how we're going to close these. I'll leave the mic to you. Closing appreciation. Anything, anyone, from the sunshine to family to anything about RTM, whatever. Open mic.
I I will eternally be grateful to all of my mentors in the industry. I have I have been very blessed to have such good people out there, and you know who you are if you're listening to this. Um, to answer my call any time of the day, any day of the year, just always there for me. I will be eternally grateful to this industry, this AEC industry. The day I decided to resign and move forward, to take a leap of faith without any backup plan whatsoever, the biggest hurdle for me was the feeling of letting down a lot of clients, all my clients that I had made commitments to, personal commitments to help see through their strategic growth initiatives. And when I made that phone call to them and informed them of my decision and the reason why, it was met with resounding just encouragement, admiration, support, a lot of reflecting on how they wish that they could have done this and they would have they would had been able to they would have, and that this would be the best decision of my life, and that I would never regret it, and I haven't, and everything that they said was true. Um, and for that, I made the personal commitment to myself that I would forever remain within this industry, and that I would continue to support this industry and help make it better for not just the sake of dollars, but for the sake of what this industry stands for and what it was built on, which is relationships. It's the people. It's such a unique ability to have an impact on so many lives across so many areas, and a positive impact, right? Like that's what we're all here for. That's why we're here. It's not just to show out. It's to show up. It's to be there. It's to change as many lives and make as many people have a smile as you can in a single day. I've never shared this part before, and they may cut this out from this audio, but I actually have a little piece of I have a piece of paper over here, and I'm not going to show you, but I have a piece of paper over here, and I know how many people I've made smile in the past month.
Oh my gosh, you actually take tick marks on
I
that.
do, yeah,
Well, that's a cool nugget.
yeah.
I'm
It's
gonna keep that. Sorry.
no, it's awesome. No, okay. Well, I think you're going to keep it, but yeah, no, that's it's something that it's like a measure of my impact, right? And it's a small measure, sure, but it's a meaningful one, and it's something that brings me a little purpose and brings me a little joy, and uh, yeah. Now I'm a little embarrassed about it, but all
Good.
right.
Up out there, you were a little vulnerable. Well done. Okay, now it's my turn. I get to appreciate you a little bit. Okay, first of all, thank you for saying that because a person who actually cares about making other people smile. I mean, for everyone listening, already sold on the fact that you really do give a care. And then, in case we didn't think so, you're actually tracking smiles of all things. So, I appreciate the deep wisdom that you've shared today, first of all. How many times things really seared, like being present in the moment, realizing you can create more by sharing and welcoming other people in and building more flexibility, that you not having to do it all actually might be the best thing for your pocketbook. Wow. I mean, that people have already said and thought this, and it's no rocket science, but the fact that you get to see it every day and really underscore it is cool. And I cannot appreciate enough the reality of RTM's commitment to humanity in each person that they welcome in, whether through merge or by hiring. You are such a natural person to be a part of RTM. And it's so like the reality of how much you care about people is so evident. And so I so appreciate that. It's really fun to get to see your level of intentionality and purpose is, yeah, easy to see from Washington to Arkansas.
I appreciate that, and it's something that I was told when I first started getting into M&A, is that would be seen as a weakness and that it would be taken advantage of, and I'd get ran over, in terms of negotiations and things, and none of that has happened. I mean, it goes back to what I think I said it on here earlier, but people like to work with people that they like. And I mean, I will not engage in any such thing that goes contrary to to how I truly believe people should be treated and seen and understood and heard. Um, it's unique. I guess I am a little unique in a lot of ways, but I still feel like I'm Justin in Arkansas doing normal guy things. So,
Yeah, you are both all at once.
uh,
And it just, thank you. It's awesome to see this example in the M&A world, I believe in general, it's getting more and more like this, but to get to hear this as an evident showcasing of that. And thank you for your time today, Justin. This has been really fun. Keep tracking those smiles. You've made me smile today. Please put your tick mark down. Okay, good. Awesome. Everyone, today, this is a wrap. Thank you so much for listening and look forward to hearing more from RTM soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Engineering, a podcast from RTM Engineering Consultants. To be notified of future episodes and to watch past episodes, please follow Beyond Engineering on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Until next time.